Yeah. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. My name is Katie McElhaney. I was once the Senior Learning Advisor at the Center for Water with USAID. And if you are joining us, this is our series Beyond the Postmortem. And this session is going to focus on the ripple effects of USAID's WaSH learning approach. So really trying to not necessarily rehash any technical findings that USAID surfaced, but really to explore the learning systems that once helped turn evidence into action, and how the global community can now fill those gaps. So if you participated in any of my colleagues' other sessions, this is the fourth in our series. So Nikki kicked us off with charting USAID's technical trajectory on Monday. Zach and Lisa went yesterday on blueprints for a better bureaucracy, and then from toilet talk to technical influence. So today's discussion is really our attempt to capture that kind of legacy in terms of our learning approach, to reflect on the strategy that we applied, the structure, and the lessons of USAID's WaSH programming. And to hear perspectives from all of you, and to understand how the research can be kind of carried on with this gap that has now emerged. Just to reiterate, these are our kind of overarching kind of series objectives that we are hoping to kind of accomplish through this four-part series, was really to document USAID's legacy. Zach, as well as a few of us, will take on like the findings throughout like this week, and hopefully present a white paper or an opinion piece about the impact that the loss of USAID will have on the sector. And ideally, we'd like to distill some of like these collective insights into research or ongoing kind of practitioners that might be able to kind of move things forward. And then really, ideally, reimagine the future and understanding who is going to be able to kind of pick up some of what was lost and carry that forward. But really to highlight what I hope we can accomplish today, and this is going to be hopefully an interactive session, but really I'd love to be able to kind of present to you kind of a look back on our approach to our learning approach and why it mattered in terms of the global evidence use. And then really look to kind of identify kind of any key evidence and learning gaps that remain in the WaSH sector, which I'm sure you have a lot of ideas about. And then propose actionable ways your organizations and institutions can contribute to sustaining evidence-informed practice. So really, three parts, like a little bit of me talking about what was lost, and then transitioning to all of you to kind of surface what remains and what can we collectively carry forward. Just to highlight, I feel that sessions should be really actively participatory, so wanted to kind of say I would love, we're going to be spending a lot of time sharing, but in small groups, if we kind of break off into them, like definitely respect other people's listening. I've tried to create spaces for all voices in this session, and then would love to hear diversity in your thoughts. Really kind of, as I think Lisa said, we kind of move beyond like the box, and because the box is broken. Before we get started, I thought we'd kind of warm up with like a quick think. You're about halfway through this week as we kind of approach the Wednesday morning. So I would love for everyone to individually reflect and hear about how has your inner learner showed up this week. And maybe it's been surprising, maybe it's been consistent with what you've experienced before. What's one insight or finding or connection from other sessions that feels worth carrying forward? Additionally, where are you still curious or wanting more clarity? So I'm going to give everyone just like about a minute or two to kind of think about like these questions. leave you with some thoughts in mind. I'd like you to maybe pair up with somebody. So whether it's turning to your left or your right or turning behind you, there's tons of empty seats in here, so feel free to like move around and reflect on some of those questions. And for those of you online, Nikki is going to help kind of feel free to use the chat function if you've been participating online throughout the week. I'll put the questions back up so everyone can see them.
Interesting to see the discussion on Monday about the discussion in the panel yesterday about the role of the state. These are the big issues. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the general gist of what it's about. You're saying it's long next, right? Very long.
Yeah, I felt like that, especially with professional lawyers. The way that they structure it is just a discussion just because I want to rejoin. So I feel like his discussion was at the
Hey! Fancy running into you.
private investment. And I think a lot of the discussion after that, especially with we're talking about question private investment or private equity to the current systems change and government capacity. That's really needed in order to have really effective impact.
I mean, I'm not so sure I've been in a European world, but I'm a bit doubtful about the reality of the scale of real private investment in the sector. But I do think that by default, by doing nothing, suddenly private philanthropy has become that much more important to me because of the experience of the USAID. And other countries, USAID have a lot of European philanthropy. So it's almost like they've been suddenly their role has become on the scale of it, like, although they're all still pretty small. That's the thing.
I don't know, I don't have full support, but I don't think it's a huge increase.
Significant when it comes to a lot of women development, for example. It's only over 120 million over a 5-year period. You divide that by 5 years by 3 countries, and so a lot. Although, to your earlier point, they can and are using it quite strategically in addressing those systemic kind of bottlenecks and learning, whatever it might be, to try and unpack or clear the way for other investors coming behind it. There is a role that's against what they're doing with those
I think just part of the same.
And then help with the next, I think, biggest after that SIF, Children's Investment Fund Foundation in the UK. They're dabbling a bit. But otherwise it's small. I mean, well, maybe I'm missing. Do you know much about this CEO water mandate with all kind of corporates? And I don't know, but big companies that want to engage on water, and they've created this sort of group. But I don't know how much they're really doing in the sector, whether it's more just social field. I mean, I think this discussion about the state does is very important. You can't be the first person to question the other two. Right, descriptive about who's doing what. Yeah, and the problem is always that going around, it's very hard to make it work in countries
I don't, may not see
with less well off.
I'm just wondering if they're.
Our sector. And whether or not the states really believes in investing in development.
Yeah.
But I think that's that dynamic and the shifts you see happening about
Can you ask him?
dropping ODA and then I was on a plane with Integrity the other day and I looked around there. Where's ODA working? One, but half the plane was Chinese people. Filling up the plane. And that's the reality. They're going to change the world. And I think they bring very different incentives and drivers. Because they operate in a way.
Yeah. So they can't see it.
They can see it on there, but it's not like.
They're not showing.
If you're a government person, should I take money from the Chinese who demand other things, but they don't demand all the complexity and discussion or go for smaller amount of money from NGOs and foundations that want to go through a lot of hoops.
So it wasn't the high percentage.
And politics at the end of the day, that's what I don't think I think unless you can navigate and understand the realities of the country, you'll get very far. So that's what I'd like to do.
I think those things are worth the time.
Sort of go to
So maybe if we could come back together, I'd love to hear people's kind of reflections. Has there been something that has surprised you? I think I picked up on a little bit of more of the same, but would love to hear if anything has surprised you this week or any contrast that you're seeing. Group? Yeah.
So we had a great discussion about the different silos and working
Yeah.
silos and the connection. And I'm from an institute where we don't work in silos and we think like, but we train kind of transdisciplinarians or multidisciplinarians and stuff like this. And then you come here and then you go to some events and they're like, oh yeah, this is really unique. And it's like, is it? And then you have to kind of think back that actually in practice it is.
Yeah.
And that there are still so many practices that are working in silos across like hardware or software or, you have any other examples? Oh, like healthcare, so medicine and WaSH and how everything's really interconnected and you need to be able to see those interconnections.
But yet there's still like silos that are kind of functioning. You're like looking through those lenses of silos.
It's like philosophically you understand that it's all interconnected, and yet functionally it ends up
Everyone has
driving
to-
into a road.
Yeah.
And I was saying like, and even if you like really deeply believe that you should have that big picture all the time, sometimes it's hard to hold that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? To be like, okay, keep broad, like keep high and take the whole end because you start to go, okay, I need to get this done and I need to get this
Yeah.
done. And you can see
Like the
how
age old like trees through the forest kind of like concept. Yeah.
Right? And so you have to systematically or like dedicate yourself to sometimes pulling back out from it.
Coming back in and understanding. Other reflections or insights?
talked about, and I missed the panel on Monday, which I was sorry to do, but the discussion yesterday about the role of the state and the changing balance between ODA and the rollback of many of the, not just USAID, but other European bilaterals,
Yeah,
which removes, well, it depends what your perspective is, but I think places less opportunity to address some of these systemic challenges that we know are important, but then are balanced out by perhaps other players coming in who may require less emphasis on those, like China. I mean, it's definitely a changing landscape in terms of, and I think that's been on the cards for some time. I mean, the rapid overnight demise of USAID has just accelerated that picture. But yeah, I'd like to learn more about that and how governments are really reacting, because to have any impact at scale and really push things forward, you need to have government at least endorsing what's going on and investing in it, and not just small NGOs popping up here and there, and small aid programs. So that dynamic, I think, has very much been pushed out of balance, and now governments and who's left in the development community have to kind of grapple with that.
it's truly changed like the landscape of the work, and then understanding like who is going to step in to carry anything forward.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah. You have to excuse me, I'll have to go somewhere else.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Was there anything that you're still curious or wanting more clarity about like this week? As you think about like your day and what's in store for tomorrow?
That's a hard question.
Are there any insights online, Nikki?
No, I think we were having a little trouble with the
Connection.
but we're good now.
Okay, yay! Well, maybe we can get into how these reflections, how I'm seeing your reflections, and like what it means for USAID's approach, but also understanding what we can, what we're still curious about within the sector, and how we are thinking about carrying it forward. So now,
Oh, sorry, you have to move your cursor over to that screen and
to this screen, yep.
And then
Is that
you click.
working? No. Yep. Sorry,
This is my
everyone.
third day of practice doing this.
Technical difficulties. Oh, the guy came in and was just like,
There
do
you
you
go.
need anything? Okay, thank you. Okay, so just a quick kind of like look back. For years, USAID invested deeply in learning as an infrastructure. Through mechanisms like Real Water, WaSH Pals, Urban WaSH, and others, we use these to strengthen the global evidence base for water sanitation, hygiene, and water resources management. These weren't just research projects, they were systems designed to connect evidence to action to ensure that learning continuously informed how programs were designed and delivered. So this is an example of, there was a consistent slide that we were trying to present. This is just another way of like showing how we invested our money in more than 40 countries, but realizing that in addition to all of these direct funds that went to support our programming on the ground, that there was other water programming that was really dedicated to research and evidence. And so through these mechanisms, such as Real Water, WaSH Pals, and Urban WaSH, USAID made a series of what we often called big bets. So these strategic investments aimed at transforming how the sector learns and adapts. Our goal through these mechanisms was to make strategic, evidence-driven investments across our 4 strategic objectives. So really looking within kind of like these silos, which is great that you mentioned this, but like really seeing how within governance, finance, and institution and markets, like really exploring how to strengthen regulatory frameworks and implementation. You know, within the WaSH, it's about supporting WaSH markets, fecal sludge management, For WRM, it was also, generating demand and improving capacity of urban water utilities. And then our most recent kind of strategic objective around conflict and fragility was really a place that we were hoping to kind of tap into and explore further. So that recognition led to the Water for the World Implementation Research Plan. And so we even use our time here during this conference. This happened several years ago. I think it was back in 2019.
That sounds right.
Right before, yeah. It was in 2019, where we tapped into all of the thought leaders that attend this conference, which mapped out the critical evidence gaps, limiting progress in water security, sanitation, hygiene, and water resource management. The Global Water Strategy Action Research Initiative was launched to fill those kind of gaps through actionable research that directly informed programming and strengthened learning across the WaSH sector. So from this implementation research agenda, what emerged was USAID's Global Water Strategy Action Research Initiative. And this was designed to connect evidence to real-world scenarios, ensuring that learning informed both programs and policy. It built directly on the Water for the World research agenda, focusing on 7 key areas from governance and finance to water resource management and fragile contexts to close the sector's most persistent evidence gaps. So again, in 2019, we leveraged the experts in the room, working within those silos, working across those, to really kind of identify where USAID should invest in those kind of big bets. And this is where we were really kind of focusing in on our research and evidence, is across, once again, the framework of our 4 strategic objectives, but in these 7 key focal areas. And so this initiative, Advanced Learning, aligns with the Global Water Strategy and the 4 objectives. To really bring work to life, we convened a major event called the Global Water Strategy Evidence and Learning Symposium. And this happened in October of 2024. This was an inaugural event. It was almost like a little pilot that we were trying to explore. And the goal of that pilot was really to demonstrate thought leadership in action research and learning, share knowledge broadly and accessibly, making it useful to partners around the world, and ensure that evidence informs how we design programs, implement activities, and shape policy. To really make that vision real, we relied on the strength of our partnerships. And so we invited several partners that you see listed on this slide. So Real Water, you might see many of these partners actually here this week. We also had representatives from Momentum, Country, and Global Leadership, so MCGL and CDC, WaSH Pals 2, ProWash and Scale, Urban WaSH, WaSHFin2, Tufts University, and one of our new global mechanisms, Fragile Waters, that was really emphasized on the 4th strategic objective around conflict. So we invited these partners to present based on their existing research and learning efforts, work that already had findings we could harvest, test, and begin to apply. And the intent wasn't to be exclusive to our other partners, but really to build from what was already working, to make the symposium a space for real evidence in motion, and connecting the research to practice across missions to the field. So over those 4 days, we dove deep into 4 focus areas that really reflected the heart of the Global Water Strategy. So we knew that we had 7 of these focal areas that we were gathering evidence for, but for this symposium, we focused on strengthening regulatory frameworks and institutional capacity, improving the performance of water service providers, supporting water resource management and rehabilitation watersheds, and then, as I mentioned, Fragile Waters came to start to present some of their almost like 18-month effort on strengthening water security, sanitation, hygiene, and conflict, fragile, and humanitarian settings. So our discussions really centered on these areas, and we made sure to document these discussions. And what was lost must really kind of start with the structural changes that reshape the structure itself. So what I thought we could do is break off into groups. Well, before we start, are there any questions about kind of how USAID's research evolved from the research agenda and then the action research initiative? No? Okay, great. So what I thought we could do is maybe take a little bit of time to explore identifying the gaps and enduring assets of the WaSH learning ecosystem. So wanted to ideally maybe break off into groups, or actually this room is pretty small, so maybe we could do this in plenary. And would love to understand what types of learning structures or practice disappeared with USAID's WaSH team, what capacities, partnerships, or resources still exist that we can build upon, and who should carry forward this agenda and how. So these are some initial questions, and actually I'm gonna move over to like the flip chart, and would love to hear from you. Maybe we can just start to kind of unpack like the first question around what types of learning structures or practices disappeared with USAID.
Katie, do you want me to just combine the virtual one with this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. People online, if you have a comment that you'd like to make, please just raise your hand and I will be able to unmute you.
I'll start.
Yeah.
I think in addition to the, from what Katie presented, the Action Research Initiative and the symposium that we had right before everything imploded, that was only one piece of what was in the Action Research Initiative, and the other piece of it was all of the learning that our programs were doing as part of their MEL plans or impact evaluations or things like that. And one of the things that I think was lost was that we never had the opportunity to bring all of that together and see what that was telling us as well.
So really documenting modern evaluation and learning from our programs and really having a sense to synthesize that and like really start to disseminate that.
Yeah, because I mean, some of our programs were starting to align with those 7 key research areas and the key research questions and trying intentionally to contribute to that, but we never had that opportunity to look across.
I may add to that so I was really involved in the Fragile Waters contract, and it was early in that contract and we were really excited about some of the learning products that were coming out of it, and we had just done a pause and reflect, you probably remember, in December, and so we paused, we reflected, we did not get to incorporate those learnings, so we didn't get to adapt, it was just basically a year and some of programming that we didn't get to adapt based on reflection and changing circumstances, so that was frustrating.
So I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but I feel like USAID, because so much of our work was based on practice at a global scale, I think we were able to create a learning agenda, a research and learning agenda that was much more grounded on that practice than a lot of other research projects were able to. I feel like a lot of other research agendas can be pulled by other priorities, justified or not. But really, our research agenda was firmly based on a global practice.
others, for those of you how did you rely on USAID as an institution for thought leadership or research and evidence?
So I work for a institute that we are basically focused on capacity development in middle-income countries and humanitarian settings. And we're very reliant on a lot of USAID products around teaching. And the website just went down.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we had I've already downloaded a lot of stuff. So it's still,
We might come back to you because we only stole certain files
Okay.
too, so we're missing a lot ourselves.
So it was that, and it was so sudden as well.
Yeah.
That we were like, oh, we're teaching today. Oh, these links aren't working and stuff. So it was to do with, I think, the hosting and the sharing of kind of knowledge.
Yes.
As an aside, it would be really good to know what resources you're now missing, because there's a lot of collective efforts to put things back together and see who, everybody sort of downloaded their products that they were the most proud of, because we only had 5 minutes to do that. And so there's a lot of sort of across the agency, all 14,000 of us are trying to figure out how to put everything back together. So just as a complete aside, if there are specific documents, it would be good to know so that we can try and find them.
Yeah.
And I think there was a trickle-down effect to other organizations that had
This is interesting.
USAID funding.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just kind of directly USAID, it was then other agencies or organizations, a lot of their links didn't work, and then you lost that knowledge as well for training.
Yep. I found that myself, looking for a USA document, being oh amazing, this other organization is hosting it. Nope, it just linked right back to our website.
I think there was real value in there was a sensible practical sampling of implementation experience, because when USAID invested in countries, it didn't invest in just one district or 2 districts. It invested, across states and across regions.
Yes.
And you don't really, you won't be able to find that sensible a sample size based on practice to be able to even, learn from, but also use a basis for future investments.
Yep.
And that's unlimited to just countries, it's cross-boundary as well.
Yes.
So it's such a shame
Yeah.
that, it was such a sensible sample size, because the investment was so big. And I don't think that gap will ever be filled. So it's how do we, how do we kind of try to see how we can consolidate what's there, what's remaining out there, to be able to hold on to that.
That's such an interesting insight too, to kind of understand how USAID was, to Zach's point, a global organization, but we were able to carry lessons learned and really be able to kind of understand, what could work within one region might be able to apply to another, and so kind of sharing those lessons learned. Do you have any thoughts about who out there might be able to carry forward the learning agenda?
I mean I don't know if there is one. I know that on Monday in the plenary there was a lot of talk about how the development sector has shifted, and that now it's there's going to be a focus on private investment and private philanthropy. I don't think that private investment and private philanthropy will be able to fill that gap, but at the same time I feel like it is going to be a larger portion of the investments made, and so I wonder how is that going to be reflected in the research agenda?
I mean, for such, this is beyond thought leadership, because it was supported by finance. So it's actually, it has a that has a high level of political value. So I'm wondering if there's a way to position it to governments. Because I don't think it should target the smaller actors.
Yeah,
Because the gap will never be filled by the smaller actors.
yeah, with like.
But it can inform sensible investment by states. So, but the learning and the knowledge that's there, is it ready for state action? Is my question, because learning learning is good, but this is a little bit more elevated now. Like, let's say we want to position this for an investment opportunity by the state, because beyond private sector, the role of the state is what everybody's talking about now. So I wonder if there is a way to, I don't know, maybe even position part of the white paper for, different states, depending on their WaSH needs, like the bigger, states with high geopolitical value across the different regions in the world.
Yes.
If it can speak to Ethiopia, if it can speak to Nigeria, if it can speak to India, then, that can be profound with regards to impact, like as a think piece or, to inform political action or something like that.
Yeah,
Because it has
absolutely.
a lot of value and it has credibility as well, so beyond just the learning piece.
I like that answer.
That's building off of yours.
It is interesting though, like I'm wondering if, by positioning it to the states to kind of take up like the research though, how do we then think about like connecting the research from individual states across the globe? Yeah.
I was going to say that there are, like if you look at the African context, there are African networks that can feed in, that there are networks that exist for utilities, for water and stuff like that, and perhaps feeding into these
Great.
networks.
Great.
It's like you're thinking of SAWAs.
Yeah, exactly. On the regulation piece, that would be amazing actually.
There's also, it depends on the issue specifically within WaSH, but like at UNC we run a WaSH and healthcare facilities community of practice. There's some space for sharing resources and
So
that's
global and regional communities of practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's the Global WaSH Cluster,
Yeah.
humanitarian, stuff like that.
And there's like rural water supply network.
I was just thinking.
Yeah.
There's a gender change, yeah.
There's always a gender change.
Great. And those do exist, so like UNC,
Agenda for change.
what is it?
Agenda for change,
Agenda for Change.
AKA Bethlehem and Alec.
And look at that, yeah, exactly.
Is there any opportunity for, I guess, I'm thinking World Bank or UNICEF to pick up any of the,
I mean, I think the challenge with the bank and UNICEF, for example, and this doesn't mean we should let them off the hook, right? But the bank is going hardcore back to basics because the rise in populism makes makes them nervous about some of the investments that they had brought into because that's where the evidence told them they should go. And the UN system is in the process of crashing as a result of, I mean, the US was the largest single contributor across the UN system, and a lot of the other donor governments are reducing commitment as well. And so, I mean, the UNICEF WaSH team is currently holding their breath for their own rifts.
yeah.
So I think it's really unfortunate because the places that we would normally trust as partners when something goes wrong are destabilized as well.
I think that's the value with feeding into some of these larger networks, like the Global WaSH Cluster. They're not reliant on one organisation, and they're an umbrella for multiple organisations that get multiple funding streams. So they're building robustness into your system.
I think that's right.
But it is reshaping probably the way that they think about it, correct? Yeah.
there any insights online that?
We've got a shy group online.
We've been shy all week.
Online people, you're anonymous, it's even easier.
They're not anonymous.
They're not anonymous.
You're anonymous to me.
You're not You're not anonymous to me, but I
I
can.
was wondering about what the role of academia and also consultants, because it's bringing all the evidence together and analysing the evidence.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of these communities practice.
Yeah.
So like the global WaSH cluster and all of these things, but it's bringing the evidence together and then analysing that and taking it
Yeah.
forward. And also the role of capacity development within kind of governments, agencies and ministries,
Mm-hmm.
that building that capacity and that critical thinking for analysing the data that's coming in, if they
Right.
are to take forward the role of bringing evidence at a country level together.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be, I don't know if it's still active, but in the US, there used to be a universities WaSH consortium where all of the universities across the country that had a water program, no matter where it's at, public health, engineering, whatever, had a loose coalition and they would engage in Congress together and things like that. Does that exist in other regions of the world? Does anyone know of like a similar
So
network?
we have a network of, we have the Global Sanitation Graduate School. So we have a network of sanitation professionals globally from IHE, and we have a huge alumni network. But all of our stuff is to do with water, but it's not country-based as such. And then I think there's some loose, because I'm from the UK, but I work in the Netherlands, there's kind of a loose connection. In the Netherlands there is, but I can't speak for any other country, but that's not very good. But I think as well there's lots of networks that are like utilities, and there's kind of partnerships between utilities and utility kind of schemes.
Yeah, like that.
For cross kind of country learning and stuff.
What about wasn't there like a learning, I don't know, there was a learning space or a network or a depository that AMCA was trying to set up when Kitch was around? Is
Yeah.
that still a thing? Because if we are able to find space within the AMCA machinery to maybe buff up their archives with active, guidance pieces, learning pieces, think pieces, then, that can have a direct influence on the summits and things like that. And that's, where states actually, kind of go to. I wonder if that's like the Wallace work that AID used to fund and stuff. Is that still a thing, or?
Well, I know the work that you were talking about, and I don't know if it ever was fully established in AMCA, but there were, the last I knew of it, there were questions about whether it was redundant with the repositories that UNICEF and WHO are holding. And so I think they might have been having a hard time finding funding for it because the global community was saying, well, this exists at the global level, but that doesn't mean that it's where African member states want to go for it.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of avenues that can
But I think
be
AMCA's
closer
a
to
good,
governments,
I think AMCA's a good idea.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, there might even be possibility to have.
Cal?
Yeah,
It's
as in water.
AMCOW, you're correct.
AMCO, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I think that was the
Yeah.
M, but
Yeah.
COW, okay.
Yeah.
you got it. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
It's not gonna take a lot of money to set up something like that, honestly. And they could even, I don't know, if it's positioned well and if it presents political value for governments,
Yeah,
then it's not gonna be costly actually.
no.
And all the material, the content is there, and I don't know, might be something interesting or worth looking into.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, okay. Yeah. Any other thoughts on, what capacities or partnerships or resources around, or who you feel like
could pick up the baton from USAID's research and learning agenda and carry it forward. Yeah.
I mean, have you already talked about industry associations? I mean, there's WaSH on the African continent, and then there's the International Water Association, which is starting to build out its a fraction of its work dealing with the global south. Both of those are interesting constituencies because they've reached to different sets of stakeholders, to utilities and consultants, right? I actually worked at IWA, and one of the things we used to think about was how can we get more mainstream development thinking into the hands of consultants doing work for the World Bank or entities. So I wonder whether there's some strategic interest in thinking that through. You have lots of ready-made content, they have lots of members and interest, so perhaps there's a sweet spot to exploit there.
Yeah.
We have an online person who wants to talk, so. Great. Marielle, I just unmuted you, or I just asked you to unmute maybe. Can we hear you? Check. Sorry. This is the first time we've actually done this.
Marielle, you are able to speak. I see you unmuted. Do you have issues with your microphone?
Marielle?
Or should we put it in the chat?
You can also put it in the chat if you prefer. I don't know if your microphone's not working. Okay. Well, she put a comment in the chat. She said, I am currently based in the Middle East and focus on regional development funds and multilateral banks, including European and bilateral European donors. Here in Yemen, it's a serious mix of funding from the development and humanitarian sector, which is a real bridging of the humanitarian development divide in WaSH. Also, hi Marielle, haven't seen you in years, hope you're doing well.
Also, that's exactly how it should be done in Yemen, yay.
Yes.
So, Nikki, regional development sectors, so their role.
And funds, yeah. And multilateral banks. And then I think I would also, as a separate point that she mentioned, add bridging development and humanitarian funding and looking to both for resources and
I mean, that's actually what we wanted to incentivize with our fourth strategic objective, was to model how that can be done, because it's so hard and unlikely to happen without a proof of concept.
Another one, yeah, great. Okay. Abera, you are now able to unmute and talk.
In theory.
I think our speaker might be.
Their mic's not working.
Can't hear you, Abera.
Well, we're figuring it out.
I don't want to stop someone online, but I just wanted to see them.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is our computer muted or something?
I'm wondering. In tech support, I think this might be an issue with the speakers in the room, maybe?
I love that we can just say, hey, tech support.
It's amazing. It's like Siri.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna call the tech support line. Okay, if you want to continue. Yeah. While we're figuring this out.
So, I'm sorry I came late, but have you already talked about sort of the integration with learning and academic constituencies? So I'm wondering whether, because a lot of the work that we're doing through USAID is very practice-rich, whether these massive online courses, MOOCs, EVAD and SAMBEC, as for instance, the ones that I know best, might be interested in picking up that type of material as foundational resources.
Yeah.
Because then you're getting it in front of a different set of people and embedding it in
That's great. And it could be an opportunity for their test too, you know.
And I'm not up to speed with who's doing that now, but I know that Ava and Sander in Switzerland.
Avar,
Ava and Sander.
We have people on the line that we're trying to allow to speak. I think there's something up with the speakers because they.
EA,
I like Ava.
sorry,
I
AG,
am
in Denmark.
No, they're Swiss, they're Swiss.
Swiss.
Yeah,
So you can't hear them, is that what it means?
They do a
it's
lot.
like a research, yeah.
And it's Christian.
It's, no, it's a Vera.
Okay.
And you also stand up, right?
Oh,
Sander is
Like
within the
same
Swiss
thing.
Medical Institute, so it's a subset.
Same.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, that's what George.
Yeah.
I was just wondering for kind of like funding and stuff, whether this whole thing of like washing a silo, so like looking at health funding, looking at agricultural funding, looking at general kind of that kind of funding to plug the gap. So you
But I
was
think
selling
it's
that,
just the speakers.
like I was doing a proposal to do with piggybacking wash on conservation stuff.
Yeah,
So there's always a way of kind of piggybacking it onto
conservation,
because
yeah.
it crosses so many sectors
Yeah.
and stuff.
Well, I was gonna
Climate.
Climate.
throw out a similar question is, you know, I always felt, I think probably all of us have, it's an ongoing mystery as to why the global health sector doesn't fight for WaSH and the gender equality sector doesn't fight for WaSH and, right? So we tend to be an island, especially in advocacy and funding circles. And I wonder, and yet they're implementing WaSH programs, right? You have a lot of global health actors that are implementing WaSH programs, and yet they're not participating in the WaSH community. And I wonder if there's also value in us figuring out how to disseminate this into those communities as well.
Just anything. There's no.
Not that I necessarily think it'll make them converts to become, but they are talking about WaSH, just not with us. And so we want them to be doing so in an evidence-based way.
Yeah.
It's, which one do you want?
I think there are
Okay, so they can't
organisations that
speak
can
if
kind
they're
of
attendees. You
champion
have to
that, like
meet them.
Somali with their gender work in the Netherlands, that's very much WaSH focused.
Passion and talent.
They've done a lot of stuff on gender-based violence and WaSH.
SIMA, yeah.
And which one?
Well, and I'm thinking even more broadly, like, what about women deliver?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or, I mean, I was our gender advisor, and I know, you know, one of my, my big answers that Katie has heard many times is we didn't invest anything yet in research on equity practice. Like, that was on the list, but it hadn't happened.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we had a couple of one-off mental health research investments or something like that, but as part of the Action Research Initiative, that was a grouping of research questions that we just hadn't gotten to.
Yeah.
So that's too bad because that would have been a great thing to launch at Women Deliver or something like that, but it'd be really interesting to think about what are the snippets that we do have that we can use, because as we go forward in the direction that the global development and health communities seem to be traveling in, like, I'm personally very worried that WaSH is gonna get more and more sidelined, because we're in that in-between, what are we touch everything and therefore nothing space. So I think actually as a global community, there's some strategic importance in being in rooms where everyone knows WaSH is important, but no one is, it's not a WaSH organization that also does something. It's another organization that should also do WaSH, if that makes sense. So but that would require a lot of analysis of what we have, since we never
Yeah.
got to the second tranche of research
Disseminating,
questions.
yeah.
Yeah.
We are having issues with the microphone, but Avera said, let me put like shortly a concern. Huge support of USAID WaSH program is not active now, which highly affects the vulnerable groups directly, as well as the professionals indirectly. How long can this trend continue? I think it's building on what we were talking about,
Yeah.
with equity. Yeah, I mean, I hope the trend doesn't continue for.
Yeah, we
I
hope.
At some point need and political will and, I mean, something's gotta give at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
I just don't think we're there yet, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Thank you, Avera, for contributing, sorry about that.
So we don't really have the ability to hear anybody from online,
No.
just to kind of, so keep using the chat function.
Keep using the chat and I will read it out.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts? This has been great, I think.
Yeah.
It's really insightful, like just the different kind of connections that we probably weren't thinking about.
Absolutely.
Super helpful.
I've got like a question.
Sure.
I was wondering what other organisations could learn from what's happened to USAID to make their systems more robust.
That's a great
Mm.
Because that's a real worry, is the lack of robustness to do with like even hosting kind of repositories of information and knowledge. Because I think that would be really helpful for the global community and funders and academic institutes to how can we build in more robustness into our systems.
Invest in knowledge management.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But it also
and
matters
back
that
it up so that no one single
Yeah,
crazy
exactly.
person can take it all
Who the
down.
host is, because if it's the government, like you guys were required, I'm sure, to use the DACA like resource library.
Yeah,
The DAC and
But there's
global
like,
waters, yeah.
once it's gone, there's no backup of that.
Yeah.
right.
I would say also create redundancies, a lot of
I think
redundancies.
digital is a big deal now, like not
Yeah.
just PDFing everything and having downloads, but actually having digital infrastructure, like Notion is a great site for like using, you can put databases in there, you can use
Yeah.
it for notes, you can create websites. A lot more resources are going into that space now, so
Yeah.
having links that take you outside of a repository that's government owned.
I would
Or
also,
even organizationally owned if you're allowed to.
I would also say exploring a closed circuits of like chat, like a chat GPT or artificial intelligence. I mean, that's another place that we were moving towards, was we had a closed AI platform that we were using where we could create like just really specific questions that drew upon like our research and our evidence to answer like our questions, and drew upon like all of our final reports and mails. So that was something that we were just like starting to kind of pilot internally. And so having like organizations kind of like having like that back end where it's a closed circuit and you're only kind of having AI kind of search certain resources or repositories that you kind of manage, I would say is also like really helpful. So like invest in knowledge management, create redundancies,
I also
invest
think-
in,
Expand your constituency, like really, really think carefully about, you know, if X partner goes down,
Yeah.
who won't be affected by it, and be friends with those people, right? Like, cause for USAID writ large, one of the reasons, well, this is a different session entirely, but I think a lot of us feel that one of the reasons that that they were able to get away with this without repercussions so far, please, the courts are still considering it, but is because it's not an elections issue. It's not, right? And so like what's the version of that relates to your institution or your institution, you know?
Honestly, I also feel like one of the failures that I see from USAID, and I think that we weren't set up to do this, so maybe I'm criticizing too harshly, is that there was a real disconnect between the water and sanitation work that USAID did internationally, and the water and wastewater work that was happening inside the US. And I think that since, in my own personal experience, since opportunities were so limited, I've spent a lot of the last 8 months really looking at the domestic sector. And what I see is a lot of very similar work
Yep.
using very different technical jargon, and a group of people totally unaware of the similarities between the work they're doing and the work that USAID was doing. So I think that there's a lot of benefits that could come from bridging that communication coordination gap. And I think one of them might be lowering the risk of this kind of catastrophe repeating itself.
Yeah, I agree.
Those might also be good industry and engineering groups for you to
Yeah,
include
that's
in
great.
your research. What happens to all of the resources that were archived? Like the aid archive, the WaSH 2.0,
So there's,
IC4D?
there's Global Waters was rebuilt in part under the deck. For those who aren't super into USAID's millions of processes, the deck was where our program documentation was stored publicly. And so when DOJ took that down was actually when we all realized that all the knowledge was gone. Like what was on USAID.gov was nothing compared to what was on the deck. So
Like every quarterly report.
every quarterly report for like 50 years. So that's partially rebuilt, and along with it, Global Waters was partially rebuilt, but actually Flush also did an attempt to rebuild Global Waters, which I personally think is better than the I4DI version. I think it's global-waters.org. And I don't know why they haven't really promoted it very well, but when I've gone to look for documents on both the I4DI version and the Flush version has more. WaterAid America is also, I know, working on rebuilding, hosting some. And there's a lot of sector focused efforts. Like all of the youth champions are working on rebuilding everything to do with youth and development. The gender advisors are doing the same with gender. So I think you'll start seeing a lot more individual repositories popping up.
I know LinkedIn has like several groups
Yeah,
that if you can find them through your
Yeah.
connections, there are several new groups that are emerging that are collecting
yeah.
like a lot of
Is it the AIDS Transition Alliance or the USAID Alumni Association that's doing
that, but there's
Knowledge.
the knowledge hub that Stacy Young is
the
kind of.
Knowledge Hub? And I think that might be fitting. So the AIDS Transition Alliance was established actually by a couple of senior USAID people, as well as some of the counselors in our staff care program. And they're doing a lot as well. And then the Alumni Association in USAID has a 50-plus-year-old alumni association. Yeah.
So it is global-waters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Global-waters. I'll write
That's what I
it.
was saying with Global Waters 2.0.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's
And,
global.
but there's also the one that I4DI did, which is
.org.
Death Finder.
Okay.
And that's the
It's
Flush
very-
one, right?
Yeah.
It's not the Cash App.
No,
Well, you know,
not the
Lisa,
Cash
what
App
the problem was
casinos
too
one.
with Flush was they launched Global-Waters and then something came out the same day with, was it
I4DI.
I4DI, and it kind of trumped the announcement.
Yeah, well, I will say Flush did a better job. It's,
Question about it. It seems like on a lot of these newly built repositories or places, like the most recent stuff is actually not available, but stuff from the
Yes.
BSP days, like from
Yes.
kind of 2020 and earlier,
Yeah.
is like readily available.
Yeah.
Is there, from kind of Insider USA, like, is there a reason why maybe the last couple years of learning documents would be outside of what was able to be?
I've tried to answer that question for myself, I've noticed it, but I think probably it's because the older stuff was housed elsewhere, or because the contractor who built the website 10 years ago still had it, but the contractor who was building the website yesterday also lost access.
I see.
That's my best guess.
Or it was still an ongoing contract and therefore they weren't sharing as much because it was still maybe.
Because that was something I was seeing repeatedly, like, I know there's something from 24.
Right,
that
right.
I kept.
So like, for example, the contractor who was maintaining the website at the time of the termination of programs, they were one of the first ones to declare bankruptcy. And just because they were so dependent on USAID communications contracts. And so they are coming back online, but they terminated 100% of their staff. And so they are restarting and rehiring and getting some new income streams and trying to contribute to rebuilding. But they literally lost everything within, I think it was within like 3 weeks of the stop work order or something. They were the very first USAID partner to declare bankruptcy.
So it'll continue to maybe be like a trickle.
I think there will
as,
be.
like, places that have access.
That's what I
on their own
think,
servers.
don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know if it's ever gonna fully
There's-
get recovered.
yeah.
I mean,
It's not systematic in any
Yeah.
way.
It's not systematic. Former staff are trying to systematize it as much as possible, but it required, a lot of the website maintenance, for example, was contracts.
Yeah,
It wasn't being done in-house, which means, it depends on whether you can reach a person who worked there that still has access to their servers to be able to find the document for you, for example. And so many people lost their jobs that all over, like our partners, the individual person that we worked with, we may not know where they are right
Where they
now.
had to find a new job.
Yeah. Yeah. So we welcome, it's a global community effort, like anybody who finds a repository, or if you think of a document and you look to see if you can find it anywhere and succeed, like, please save the PDF, please do not save the link, please, post it on LinkedIn multiple times so that people have a chance to save it themselves. That's really the only way it's been working, I think.
Yeah.
It's tragic. Anyway, that was an aside.
Yeah, no, that's great. With us kind of facilitating this just in plenary, we're probably gonna end a little bit early, which is probably good for all of you. But would love to hear, we're collecting a little bit of information, and would love it if you took maybe like literally 30 seconds and share with us like what's one ripple you hope this conversation creates. Whether it's really specifically connecting into a network that you mentioned, or maybe you feel that there's something that you could do as well. But would love your quick thoughts.
You have to advance to the Woo clock itself.
Oh, I
for
didn't
it to-
pull that up.
Oh, okay, no, never mind, it's working.
Oh, is it
It's
working?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Wait, no.
No, not yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna sign in on.
Yeah, Nikki's, just stand by, Nikki will fix it. We tried this new
Sorry.
platform for this
Yeah.
conference, which has the best name in the world. WooClap is so fun to say. But it's hard to test it properly until you get into the room, so.
Okay.
Sorry, you have to like drag and drop a million. I don't need you guys to see my emails.
Yeah.
You can do a little bit more. It's not, at least this is free,
No,
you just pay for this.
yeah.
Do you integrate your slides into it?
Uh-huh. It's like the easiest
Yeah.
build I've ever seen in terms of creating polls or word clouds or whatever. It's incredibly user friendly.
Oh, yeah.
Does it have design capability for slides, or you import your slides from?
There we go.
I imported,
Where'd it go?
but
Did it
then
keep the fidelity of the
it did. So it only works if you import your slides as a PDF and then it converts them to a new slide type. And then you drag the activity or the board in between the slides for it to appear.
You couldn't see it.
And it does, we chose it because very few of these platforms has a brainstorming function.
Yeah.
And this one has a really good brainstorming function, but it also does all the things that Mentimeter or Slido do. It's incredibly user-friendly.
Okay, it should work now.
Yeah, it's working.
I just need to drag it back over.
Are you able to drag the slide itself, the WooClap itself over?
I
See it?
can't seem to drag anything over. Yeah. Because of how it's, yeah. I just can't get rid of this.
So if the Room tech were working, you'd be
There we
able
go.
to see
There
it
we go.
calculating like a
Okay.
normal word cloud.
Yeah.
That's one.
There we go. Thank you, Nikki.
You're welcome.
Great.
And I'm just gonna.
Actually take what you say, it just like.
It takes sound bites,
Yeah.
so sorry about
But
that.
it does if you do it with a different type. So this is a word cloud type. If you did it with a poll or a brainstorming function, it would take it exactly how you, yeah.
I mean,
It
there's,
doesn't actually work for WooClap.
No, it was just, I took on,
Maybe she should.
I took on the responsibility of finding the platform, so I was like, I figured it out.
but I can kind of infer just even from some of these words.
Yeah.
I do like repositories, so really thinking about like the responsibility of kind of carrying those repositories together, like thinking about like the white paper and how we might have like clear recommendations. Tapping into communities, existing communities, I imagine. Understanding who the responsibility is, like clarifying some of these stakeholders and how that can like reshape the way in which they think about like their work. Building in and investing in research and learning throughout like the process is going to be very important, I imagine. Collecting the relevant documents, seeing that up there.
I think relevant could just be its own.
Yeah.
I like together being larger in the middle.
Yeah, together. Love
Yeah.
it. It's the largest.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. I know that this was a small group. Oh, yeah. There's one more survey. Oh my gosh, Nikki.
Just go to,
Yes.
The arrow over to the right.
There we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
One more survey that we've been collecting throughout the weekend, all of like these series. So
If you didn't-
slideshow.
ignore the critical security alert, it's just me logging in on different computers for myself.
You didn't just get hacked by your employer?
So this survey is just another chance for you to share thoughts you might have not had the chance to share during this session, and it covers all 4 of our sessions. And we'll use all of your inputs as we synthesize all of our notes and try to put together. We're saying white paper, we're hoping to submit it for PLOS, so hopefully they accept it, but we definitely want to make sure that it's available publicly for the center.
Thank you, this was a great discussion.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much.
Slow at night.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This is something that I feel like we're very proud of. This has been a thank you for all of us, but this was our last Global Water Workshop that we hosted in May of 2024. And we went to Berkeley Springs, West Virginia with many of our Foreign Service officers. And it was a great opportunity.
A lot of Foreign Service nationals.
Foreign Service Nationals, sorry. It was a great opportunity to actually make some connections that Zach was highlighting about the relationship between international development in the WaSH sector versus what was happening super local in the United States. So we got to visit a community managed water quality site, and got to learn a lot about like how the community really valued. So I don't know if anybody knows a lot about Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, but it's just about 2 hours outside of DC, and it's lots of natural springs and hot springs, and so it was George Washington went there often to take a bath. So, but it's a really great, it was a really great learning, and got to see even some conservation kind of sites in the area, and how the town really worked together to kind of build and protect its water resources.
And if you ever wondered how big the USAID WaSH team was worldwide, this is about 80% of the team.
Oh, I think way less than that.
You think less than 80%?
Yeah, I think this was like 50.
50% maybe?
But still small.
Still small. For the amount that was being done, that's a very small team.
And we did have representation from all of our regions, so that was great, except for EME, but we didn't have.
Yeah, there's probably a couple people in
Do
this
we have any
photo,
programs?
my friend. Yeah.
Aw, man.
Yeah. It's sad. Yeah, this photo makes us all a little teary, I'm not gonna lie.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you online.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop sharing.